Welcome to We Can Access. I'm David. In this video, we're going to cover from our perspective what accessibility is. And we're going to take it from 5 different perspectives. One, the person with the access issue. One, a parent of a children who's got access issues. The third one, which will be people who are carers of people who've got access issues. Then the fourth one is the employees who've got access issues. And then finally, the business owner or the business person. It could be a hospital, it could be a coffee shop, any type of business, any type of organization that employs people who employ people with access issues, and also who have consumers who have access issues. So what does accessibility mean to us? It means leading a barrier-free life and maximizing a person's potential. That's it. The problem, and I don't like the word problem, the problem with issues around accessibility is they have barrier after barrier after barrier. And what that leads to is a loss of revenue, a loss of income, a loss of time, stress, physical health issues as well, and actually a lack of consumer choice and lack of customers, or not lack of customers, but not maximizing the customer base. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it from a personal perspective to start with. As you look at me, I'm the co-founder of We Can Access. On paper, and this is on paper, I've got a master's in education and I've got a degree. If you dig any deeper though, actually I've got access issues. At school, I struggled and I still struggle with literacy. I haven't gone for a dyslexia test. One of the modules in my master's is in difficulties in literacy. My handwriting is abysmal. If it wasn't for Microsoft Office coming out in around about 1997, possibly before that, not quite sure about the dates, my literacy would be awful. I can read, that's not a problem, but my spelling is atrocious. When I first went to university, the first essay I wrote was 1,000 words, 600 spelling mistakes, 1 full stop, not quite sure when. So I had an access issue with writing and engaging academically. But irrespective of the academic side of things, I had an issue with writing. I had an issue with written communication. And it's through the use of technology that I could overcome that access issue. And it then enabled me. And I was incredibly frustrated. I mean, the jobs that I've done are kitchen porters, artificial insemination of turkeys. I've done cleaning chicken coops. And during those jobs, I met so many different people who had so much to give, but either they were afraid of saying the access issue they had and the disability, or the disability or access issue didn't have a label, which means they couldn't go for support. And what happened? That led to them doing jobs that they didn't want to do, frustration, mental health issues, and then fundamentally not being happy as individuals. And they were frustrated. So from a pure accessibility personal perspective, actually good accessibility means or leads to a good and healthy life. The challenge is that there are barrier after barrier after barrier. And we've covered some of the barriers that We Can Access faced, or that we faced, in our previous video, in our introductory video. Now let's look at it as a parent. As you're aware, or you may not be aware, that the co-founders of We Can Access, Emma and I, are parents of one child who's a brain tumor survivor. Now, from an accessibility perspective, the challenges that we had was, number one, it being acknowledged, the fact that being believed. being believed that there was an actual issue with our daughter, and the access to communicate with healthcare professionals that believed us because they had their own inherent belief system on the issues that our daughter faced. And this was prior to the diagnosis of cancer. So the access issues that we faced were access to health, because we weren't accessing the appropriate healthcare professionals. Then we had access to the communication, the understanding of the communication, and of what the needs actually were. Once Addie was going through the treatment, then it was access to education. Now, when I mean education, I'm talking about education from a holistic perspective in order for people to build up the skills. So with what we're really talking about is access to education on learning how to care for oneself, to cook, to clean, to have those independent life skills that you can go about your living your life as independently as possible. But also from an educational standpoint, the ability to gain qualifications and skill sets, which will then enable people to either have their own businesses, be employed by people, or employed, in other words, voluntarily, or as a paid employee. But without access to education, and when there are barriers to education, you can't build up the skill set. And that could mean access to resources from a homeschooling perspective. So the resources are written or explained in a way that people understand. But within education, there's also access to a good social life. And the social skills that come with education. That could be online social skills. That could be offline. That could be going to clubs. And the ability to interact socially with people could be via games. You've got, I don't know if some of you have heard of a game called Roblox. You've got Minecraft. You've got these online, lots of online games that I can't, with greatest respect, I can't even think of. You've got, was it player versus player or games? You've got community games. It could be playing chess with people online, and even playing computer games with a computer online. But it's access to that stuff. The problem with that, though, is it comes at a cost, an actual financial cost. It costs money to access this stuff. And if people have got access issues, the barrier to entry, the barrier to go to school, to get education, to access these resources might be higher, because there are additional needs and additional systems that need to be put in place, additional resources that need to be to be purchased or to be used. That comes at a cost, and somebody's got to pay for that. If kids are in independent schools or private schools, the parents are paying for it, or potentially the person's working for a company, the company might pay for that. If not, if you're in state education, the state's got to pay for it. But the state gets its money from potentially the taxpayer, so the person's paying for it. So if there are access issues to education, it's going to cost the taxpayer money. It's going to cost the consumer money, the everyday person. So by making education as frictionless as possible, it's actually reducing the cost to to the organizations and to the state and to businesses. Now, also as a carer, which, to be honest about it, I was for a little bit. My mum was, and again, we are for Addie as well. As a carer, there are access issues. It's being able to speak to the appropriate people, being believed, acting on behalf of the person that you're representing, communicating the needs of the people that you're representing, and also the physical and mental exhaustion that comes from being a carer. That also comes from that exhaustion. Also comes being a parent and also being a person with access issues. And in future videos, we're going to cover the whole fatigue element behind it and how it becomes absolutely exhausting to communicate with organizations, to repeat the information, and to, at times, fight organizations and fight the system. But coming back to being a carer and the access. As a carer, not only does the person have to care for the person, but you've got to care for yourself. And the more barriers there are, the more issues there are, the more friction there is, the more exhausting it then becomes, which means the more frustrated potentially one becomes. And then who are you going to take it out on? Potentially the employee of an organization, or potentially you're going to get physically ill. So the whole access issue and what does access mean, and from a friction, it means trying to lead a life, I say, as frictionless as possible without those tensions. Then as an employee, well, actually as an employee, if you've got hidden or visible disabilities, how hard is it for those organizations to employ you? Are those organizations actually going to employ you? Do you declare your disability, or is your disability actually recognized? Is the access issue recognized? So the thing about being an employee for any organization in terms of an access issue is that you need to, there are issues around who do you need to speak to? Do you need to speak to HR? Do you go self-employed? Are people not going to listen to you? Are they going to give you lower responsibilities? What are the expectations? And even though there may be rights and equality rights and everything else in place and policies in place to enable people with hidden and visible disabilities to go for jobs, actually, as an employee, there could be barrier after barrier after barrier. There could be a lack of understanding by the organization, by the people that you work with. And that could, again, lead to health issues, physical and mental. It could lead to people taking time off sick. So there could be pain points within the organizations that cause the employee to leave. But here's the catch. Businesses or organizations have reputations to keep. They've got HR departments, but critically, they've got reputations. And some of the best people who can market the organization and work with the organization are their employees. If you have a good company that treats its employees well, the best people that will advertise for that company are the employees. And the people who will shout loudest amongst those organizations about how great the organization is are the people with the hidden and visible disabilities. So from a business perspective, what will happen is that if businesses treat their employees who have got hidden and visible disabilities well, they've actually got they've got a free marketing and advertising group. It's their staff. The thing is, again, I'm going to come back to businesses. If somebody suffers from fatigue, has mobility issues, well, what they can do is if it's a customer facing organization like a coffee shop, a restaurant, a leisure centre, if they employ people with hidden disabilities or visible disabilities, they're going to turn around to their friends and say, do you know what? Actually, it's quite good. The facilities might not be overtly and obviously there to support people with the hidden disabilities and the access issues, but actually the staff have an understanding and a level of understanding. And as a result of that, the organizations may well see an increase in their customer base from people who they might not otherwise realize have got those hidden disabilities, because people just simply don't want to declare them. So in this video, the aim really was to just explain what we mean, what accessibility means to us. And it means leading a frictionless life, or reducing those friction and pain points so that people can lead a fulfilling life. Businesses can maximize their customer base that they've targeted. The employee can have a successful working life and be absolutely productive for that organization. The carer can be a very good carer and not have the additional ills and strain that they actually have as a carer, and not as many pressures. As a parent, that means that you're a happier parent. You're not arguing and fighting the system the whole time, which means the employees of those organizations are in a better place and they're not having to deal with the complaints. Same with customers. And from a personal perspective, with the person who've got access and access issues and hidden and visible disabilities, it means that you can go about your daily life as a consumer, as a person, and be as free as possible to go, lead, be happy, and purchase, go, share, consume. And overall, the world is actually a far better, happier, more productive place by having good accessibility. Everybody wins. It becomes more sustainable, more economically sustainable, socially sustainable. That's fundamentally what accessibility means to us. In future videos, we're going to be going to each of one of these topics far, far deeper. We're going to explore what it means and what solutions can very easily, potentially can be done for those organizations, and what impact all of this has, so that you and everybody around you can actively make those small changes to make the world a far more accessible place for us all. Thank you very much for watching. It'd be lovely if you can like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends.